Hello and welcome to IndiePod, an indie games podcast, your weekly source for all the indie games news you need to know. This week, we are bringing you 4 awesome indie game news stories. In a sense, they're kind of like, let's be real, one of them is a news story and the other ones are basically just all like...
It's like, hooray, indie games are happening.
Yeah, it's like a carrion. It's like just a smash of like all of this different meat and gross shit inside. It's like, yeah, but you know what I mean?
Beautiful,
yeah,
beautiful
exactly.
metaphor.
Before we get into any of that, of course, because naturally we got to go down, we got the games we've been playing, the main news stories, news cram, your listener questions, and God bless the crowd. Before we get into any of that, I got to introduce myself, Vaughn Hyde, and my illustrious co-host, the biggest of average Josh Boys. How you doing today, Big Josh Boy?
I'm doing well. I like how you switched up the intro. I think you were a little rusty on that since it was new.
I just got lost in it.
Yeah, you were
Didn't
really
even know where I was going.
Really in it. God bless the crowd is coming after. We're gonna switch it up now.
Dude, it happens every now and then where I'll say just like one word wrong, and then it'll throw me off the entire thing.
Yeah.
Like I could just try to read it, but I'm
I do that all the time.
It's already off.
Sometimes so for the interviews, little inside baseball or however you're supposed to say that saying, I do the interviews, I write interview questions, and the questions I usually put like intro parts to them to kind of like, if I can't think of anything, it's there for me. There's a lot of times I'll have an intro and I'll like see the sentence and I'll completely avoid saying anything that's on the page, and I'll just be like, let's riff. And sometimes it like hits, and other times I just like kind of go in a circle and I'm like, all right, fuck it, and then I get lost, and it's like such a struggle.
I mean, I think that's so nice about interviews, though, is when it feels like a real flowing conversation. Like you said, sometimes it can end poorly, but...
Yeah, I mean, granted, I don't think it's ever been just, like, awful, but sometimes it works well, and sometimes it works not as well. The last one I had was, God, I can't wait for that one to come out, because I spoke with a developer, it was a couple, and they literally, like, they just ran off with the conversation. I was like, hey, what's the elevator pitch for your game? And they were like, let's list all the mechanics. And I was like, elevator pitch, people.
You're like, I don't know what fucking elevators you're taking, but
they
this
were
is
like,
outrageous,
yeah, they were
bro.
crazy, dude. But no, they were super sweet. They were super nice. And it was one of those things where I was like, I looked at my list of questions and I was like, fuck, they're already answering a lot of these. And I was like, oh, well.
Yeah, you're like, it's a 5-minute interview of me asking one question and them answering every question I had before I even muttered it.
Yeah.
They interviewed themselves, essentially.
Yeah.
That's nice. Hey,
no, it was super.
Little work for you.
I told him, I was like, fuck it, do my job for me. I was like, this is supposed to showcase you, not me. I'm like, if I don't need to be here, I'll hit the record button and y'all can talk about your game.
Well, that's nice of you, Big Josh Boy. That's very nice of you. I'm glad the developer interviews are going well. I love that people are listening to them. Speaking of the developer interviews, of course, our housekeeping, this week's developer interview is Sander and Bruce. Their game is Sizable, I believe. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure if I said that name correctly, but
their name or Sizable? Which one? The game's name or
either one?
All right.
Any of it. Any of the words that just came out of my mouth.
The game's name is correct. I don't know about the developer though, but it's okay.
You mean it's not like when their parents envisioned that name? They're like, a moose dying. That is that's the sound I want people to come out of people's mouths.
They specifically wanted that extended, use of the syllables as well. That kind of like, ooh, like
they're like, we only put 2 O's, but what we really wanted is like the phonetic spelling to have like 65.
Yeah,
it's like you just really got to let it roll off the tongue, like ooh. Yeah,
perfect.
Like an elk. I get it. It's good. I mean, I'm so glad that I understood what they were going for, and obviously humanity didn't. Like, I actually kind of wonder if there are people who out there who, like, when they decide their baby's name, they, like, think about the way it's going to be said, and they're just like, I want it to be said this specific way.
I mean, they should.
It's not about what the name is. Yeah. Instead, they're like, I'm going to spell, like, they choose the phonetic spelling as the actual spelling.
Yeah.
And you're just like, but phonetic spelling never fucking makes any sense. You're just like, it looks weird.
Yeah. But I'm kind of for it though, because I feel like it's so much easier when you see something and it like it's built the way that you're like, it should probably be said this way. You're like, no one's screwing it up.
Yeah.
It just looks weird
I mean,
to write.
that's my wife and I, like, we've talked a couple times about what we're gonna name our kids and like how exactly we structure their name, because we don't want our kid to be the one in class that like always every substitute teacher gets their name wrong. Like, we went to school with a girl named Shalise. Every time a substitute teacher came in, they were like Chelsea, and she's like, it's Shalise.
Oh, wait, did it have a C though?
No, it was written like Chelsea. It looked like Chelsea, but her name was Shalise.
What? Oh my goodness. How do you see? That's like a weird thing, because if it's written a certain way, I don't think you as a parent just gets to be like totally.
It's like the GIF or GIF thing. It's just like, no, your kid's name is Chelsea. You like, if the general public say it's Chelsea, it's Chelsea.
I think you should have spelt it differently if you wanted people to not say Chelsea.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. But, of course, this is the developer interview for Sizable going up Wednesday. That's one day after for patrons, 2 days before for plebes, so be sure to check it out. Speaking of checking things out, check out the IndiePod store, soon to have more things on it next month when we finally have enough money to... yeah, I know. Most people do. Like, we're Americans. We love the amount.
Yes.
We love quantity, okay?
That's
like,
what it's about, baby.
That's what my wife and I were talking. Also, I love that I'm just droning on about the shit my wife and I talk about.
I love it. Come on, let's go.
Last night we watched the movie Always Be My Maybe, and it's like it's really interesting. Well, it's not. It's actually just a standard romantic comedy, but they're like, one of the characters is a celebrity chef, and as it shows the like plating portions, we were both just like, I love that the more you seemingly spend on money, the more money you spend on food, the less you actually get. So it's just like they pay $6,000 for a meal, and it's just like fucking bubbles.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird.
I've seen this movie, which is strange because I don't want to watch a lot of movies, but I love Keanu Reeves and Randall Park's. Like
Randall Park is awesome,
dude. He's so.
I love Randall Park.
Do you know he raps?
Yeah, no, that's what I was gonna say. That's actually why I wanted to watch the movie, is because I saw a video of him freestyling, and I was like,
yeah, it's
what?
Like, he actually raps,
and I watched I watched Ant-Man and the Wasp too, and the fucking close-up magic thing just got me fucking hard. He's just like, how'd you do the trick, Scott? Like, that's so good. It makes me want to watch WandaVision so bad now.
Yeah, because you've
I've
seen
heard that he comes up and does the close-up magic thing. Yeah. I think that's so fucking cool. But yeah, we watched that, and I was just like, fucking tiny portions, dude. I would hate that.
No way,
give me
man.
McEldoos. Speaking of, like, fucking, we tried to go to McEldoos last night. All of them closed. What's that all about? It was only midnight.
At what time? Midnight? These people. Come on now.
Yeah, dude. They've got the sign that says 24-hour drive-through, but when we go through, all of their fucking menus are turned off. We were like, what?
What you doing there?
Okay. Yeah, so we just went to a sketchy, like, Mexican restaurant that's, like, right across the street that gives you massive portions for little money but has the worst service of all time. They're the worst.
Sounds nice.
Absolutely terrible. Yeah, I know a guy who, like, they went to go hand him his burrito, and since it was outside the door, he hadn't grabbed it yet, and they dropped it. Yeah, and then he's like, I mean, can I get a new one? It's, like, fucked up. And they're like, nah.
Damn, dude.
And that makes me laugh so fucking hard. I'm just like, you get to eat a dirt burrito, dude. I'm sorry. Like, what? Fucking Butterfingers? Like, that was totally your fault.
Was it in a bag, though?
Yeah, okay. So they, like, wrap it fairly well, but, like, there's always, like, the funny thing is, every now and then when we drive up, there's some sort of trash, like, underneath their window, and it almost looks like a full bag of food. So you're just like, I guarantee you they drop food.
I'm sure. And I don't think it's excusable, right? But I envision it, and I know it's kind of stupid because why would you just be handing up, like, a plain burrito out at someone? But it just
like
seems
on a paper plate.
Yeah, it just seems so much funnier that, like, just the full burrito, no wrapping, just slapped the ground, and they were like, yeah, no, like, you pick that up and eat it.
They're just like 5-second rule. Just,
come on,
it's good. It's like whatever. Like,
that's protein,
it's outside.
Baby.
Yeah, you're just like, dude, fucking people used to eat raw bear or something. Like, have you ever seen The Revenant? Like, fucking, you're fine. On. Like, fucking, you might get an Oscar for eating this burrito, this floor burrito. Like, it's fine. It's whatever. Please check out the IndiePod YouTube channel for these video episodes, and of course Josh's awesome reviews of MOREEE and Fuck, what is that?
Everhood.
Everhood. I was like, in my head, I was like, Underhood. Nope, that's not it.
Nope.
It's Everhood, because I had
Evertail.
Undertale in my head for a second. Please leave us reviews on any platform in which you can do so, specifically iTunes, because it helps us reach a larger audience.
So they say.
And lastly, thank you so much to all of our patrons at the $3 level or higher. Specifically, Will C, Mixomatosis, aka Mix, Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia, Chris Penwell. Always drinking tea, dude. He drinks actually too much. It kind of freaks me out. Like every time I see him, he's drinking tea, and I'm like, bro.
Relax.
It's weird. Like, there's an addiction there, okay? Yeah. And, of course, Active Josh Nichols from That There Active Quest. Make sure to check it out. And lastly, Sam Billion from Canada. Thank you all so much for being patrons at the $3 tier or higher. You're all amazing. And let's talk about the games we've been playing. Actually, I did want to tell you something on the air that I just remembered I wanted to tell you.
All right.
So, I want to ask you a question. I've told you that Morgan and I have been looking for a house.
Yeah.
How many offers do you think that we have put in? Like, based on your experience and other people's experience, how many offers do you think we put in?
Here's the thing. My wife and I got super lucky, and you'll probably get really pissed. I put in like 3, and I got my 3rd. Yeah.
Trust me, I'm not feeling good about it.
I know. Anyone you talk to, that will not be the case. We got extremely lucky. We have a buddy of ours who is on like their 10th, 11th, 12th. I think that based on you've been going like every weekend or so for the past couple of weekends. Mm-hmm. I would assume you put in like 1 to 2 each weekend. So I would say right now you're at either like, anywhere from 8 to 12.
18.
Whoo,
we put in 18 offers.
Much more. And
how
many have you gotten?
Nice? You get to tell your friend now that it's just like, 18 offers. Fun, isn't it? It's super fun.
Getting a house is awful.
It's just constant disappointment.
It is. It really is.
But I've got good news. One of them finally got accepted.
Holy shit.
I mean, technically, like we still got a couple more things to go, but we do now seemingly have a house for the foreseeable future. It's an awesome looking house. Honestly, though, we had like an inspection thing.
Did you get the inspection?
Yeah, we did. Okay, we did. Okay. And it's like all the things that pop up are just like things that we can fix kind of a thing.
Okay.
Like, so the furnace in your house, do you have a garage?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I don't know how fucking houses are built in Florida. You've got like in-ground pools with like fucking shit for alligators.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But like, is your furnace in your garage?
Furnace?
Yeah, so like... basically like your pilot light kind of a deal, like the big metal shit that does things for you, you know what I mean? Like, so at least in Idaho, because once again, like, you guys could be subterranean in Florida, our furnaces are typically in our garages, which means to keep your car from hitting it, they have this like big metal pole that's there. So it's just like, if you went too far forward, you just hit that. It's basically like concrete. And in this house, they like shaved it down to being like this big for some reason. And like the person that went and like checked out the house, the one who did the inspection, I'm fairly certain that they took like a nearby like lawn turtle. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lawn ornament that's a turtle. They like put it there. Yeah. So for like a size comparison, because everyone knows how large a lawn turtle is. And they were just like, see how small it is? This is what they did. You see this? So it's so weird. But so far it's looking like we're getting a house. Super stoked. I'm just so excited about it. Of course, we like don't get to move in for a while, but that's just... a thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say that on the air.
Here's the reason.
It's a saga.
Here's the reason why I said furnace, because it's Florida. We don't really have cold days in Florida.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, you're like, no, we just have like fucking...
Most people use electricity or some kind of heat pump to make it actually heat.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, so if global warming ever comes, if it ever rears its ugly head and you guys actually get winters, y'all gonna be fucked.
I mean, we still have heat, like, we have a heating system, but it's just not the same. It's just, it would be, I mean,
like we have a heating system and you just pull up like a space heater, like a foot heater.
No, I mean, it's just not the same. We use a different way to do it. Some do, but like, it's just not as common in Florida. Anyway.
Yeah, that checks out.
Is
I mean, it
not-
makes sense. In Idaho, it's just like we could have a blizzard or it could be squelching fucking hot the next day. Like,
Yeah.
makes sense that we actually need furnaces. But it's so fucking
Yeah.
funny.
Also, I'm not gonna lie. Like, honestly, a lot of that shit, especially when it comes to house stuff, is just like I don't know most of the things. Like, I remember there's like the water heater in our garage, and my wife said like, "What's that thing?" And there was like something hanging off the wall that it's like some kind of pipe that like opens valves or something, like a really heavy metal piece. And I was like, I don't fucking know. And she's like, well, shouldn't we? And I'm like, we've been in here for like 5 months already. I haven't once touched that thing. I'll touch it when I need to. Like, like I don't fucking know what's in here.
You're like, when we have a problem, I'll look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it'll be fine.
So like,
everyone's a handyman now.
Yeah.
I'm slightly excited for all the bullshit that comes associated with the house. Like I sat there with my wife and I was like, fuck, I gotta mow the lawn now. What is that all about?
Oof.
Like, that's gonna fucking suck.
Yeah.
But like, I'm actually kind of excited for it. So whatever. But speaking of excitement, oh my god, I can't speak.
Words
ever.
are tough.
Just in general.
Words are tough.
Let's talk about the games we're playing. Josh, you've been playing more Loop Hero by 4 quarters. So tell me about Loop Hero.
Dude, okay, so I just wanted to shout out Loop Hero again. We talked about it on the podcast last week, but man, if y'all haven't gotten Loop Hero, you really should. It's good. I am
Like how weirdly serious you got, but then just like it seemed like you're gonna be like, you're fucking dumb. But instead you were just like, you should.
You should probably pick it up. You should probably think about it.
You're like the cool dad. You're like, you should. Like, it's fine. Like, I'll always love you even though you're a piece of shit. Like, it's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah, everybody has their choices. I get it. I'll just be disappointed. It's fine. So
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed in you.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed you haven't picked it up yet and played it.
Okay.
Loop Hero is dude.
I'm sorry
I
disappoint you.
I am.
Daddy Josh,
I was
Josh.
hoping that I would put more Loop Hero, and this would be a conversation where we go, "Oh, I just got it, and let's fucking rant for like 10 minutes about how Loop Hero is so great, and we both love it." But I mean, you disappointed me, but it's okay.
Yeah. On the other hand, I just took the $15 and fucking paid Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh my
the
god!
ESO
Why
Plus
do
so
you
I could get the
stab
Necromancer.
me in the heart? Oh, you talk about these.
It's like, not only did I not
things.
buy the indie game that you want me to buy, I used it on an MMO. You're like, what?
You're like, why don't you just fucking?
It's the worst thing you could have done.
Rub my face in dirt. So Loop Hero, I would like to report that I have beat Act 2 now, which I was very excited about. It's really good, man, because even, when I had just talked about it in the first half of just Act 1, it was like, oh, it's fun because you're on the loop and it's a grind, but it's nice because you have, time to kind of do other things. It's a good, half there kind of game, but it's fun. And there's like the management of the resources that drop, and you're being this person who's creating chaos, and it's all really cool. But then as you go through each act, more things get layered on top of that. So now in Act 2 and Act 3, enemies start getting more abilities. So like a slime in Act 1 that was just like, you're just a little bitch. Now in Act 2, it'll do things like it'll hit you and it'll break down your armor every time it hits you. Or, the spiders that before did really nothing, now they'll start actually shooting webs at you and getting you stuck so that your attack really does nothing for one of the turns, and you have to like break yourself out of it. Like, and so it keeps layering, and each time it gets harder and harder, with various techniques, but also you're getting more things to power yourself up. Like now, as I'm unlocking things, I'm getting the ability to craft things. So now you'll be able to craft like little tables or magnifying glasses or whatever, and they all will have various degrees of usefulness based on your class and your character. You're unlocking new things that like now I have to think about, do enemies have a soul? Because there's a specific item that like a card that you can enable and place down, that anytime you kill someone with a soul, you gain HP, but you lose HP bonuses from armor instead. And like, so there's so many things that like, as you keep playing, it just keeps adding a layer onto it. And so like, I really like this game because it's so, honestly, it's not simple in concept, because I think it is a complex idea. As like, I haven't read it yet, but I really want to read. There was an article about how they pitched Loop Hero that I want to look into, because I think that is such an interesting idea for them to be like, trying to pitch that to Devolver Digital about, what their game is. Like, why should someone be interested before they actually see it or actually play it? Because at a glance, like, of just saying it, it sounds kind of dumb or just like convoluted, you know? But anyway, like,
yeah, it does seem weird.
Right. But the point is, it's such a, a simple concept in just going through a loop and fighting the enemies that most people would think like, oh, it'll get boring, you know, it'll be the same thing. But like, yes, it is a grind in some cases, but as you keep going, they keep adding these elements and these layers that, you know, just add to the fun of the game. So I just wanted to put it on here again to talk about how I'm really enjoying it and people should try it out.
I like the idea that it's slowly adding in more elements to deal with, like, instead of just throwing it all at you immediately, so you just get overwhelmed. Like, last week, I was like, you know what? Like, I haven't played Spider-Man, like Insomniac Spider-Man, so I'm just gonna, like, I'm gonna hop into it. So I loaded it up last weekend, and I started playing it, and I was like, why is there so much fucking shit in this game, dude? Like, immediately, it was just like, push these buttons, oh, did you know you could do? And I'm just like, how the fuck do people play this game, dude?
I don't know,
like,
man.
all of it. They throw, like, literally, I'm not even joking, like, paragraphs of different shit you need to do just to swing around the city. I'm like, what the fuck? What is this? So I'm glad to hear that there are games that are just like, you know what? Let's not throw the entire dictionary worth of, like, different shit to do at somebody. Instead, we will save a bit of that for, the rest of the game.
Yeah. And
like, that's pretty nice.
And it's good because cool. it takes a good approach at that, right? Because you don't want a game that's on the other side is, like, very, like, hand-holdy of, like, oh, don't worry, we'll piecemeal this for you. And you're like, all right, get to the point. Come on. Like, because the game does that in, like, each act, it gets harder and adds a layer. But there's other things that, like, the game just doesn't even tell you. Like, the cards that you place, those objects or those various things all have different, like, combination wise. So you have, like, a village that will, at base, you just walk through and it'll give you quests, which will just make one random enemy on that loop harder to fight, but will give you a bonus experience. But if you put that village and a vampire mansion right next to it, it'll create a ransacked village. And so there will be villagers that are like zombies that fight you there. And it will only happen if you know to place those two cards down at the same time. The game never tells you that. You just have to figure it out or look up guides, whatever. But like, you find, like, I was doing that and I was like, why are these people here? Because I had put it right next to each other and I was like, oh. And you find out later that, like, it's a really beneficial thing to do because it's harder initially to fight all those people, but after 3 loops, it becomes a place where you get a ton of HP back every time you pass through it, and it makes it much better to do it that way, but it's just like, it's higher risk, high reward.
Yeah. That's super cool, though. I like all of these, like, different small things that you can learn from the game. Like, there's still things hidden from you, so even if you get to, like, let's say the 4th act, and you've basically gone through, like, all of the big surprises, the big things that they needed you to learn throughout the game, you still have small things that are just like, yeah, little did you know you could make a zombie village.
Right.
It's pretty cool. No, that's super awesome. Still, I mean, I've yet to buy Loop Hero, but maybe I will. I don't know.
I'm just disappointed.
Maybe I'll play some Elder Scrolls Online. But the other game you've been playing, and this one we did get a code for, so just everybody take this with a grain of salt, even though I don't actually know where that saying comes from. This one is Neurodeck, a psychological deck builder. Oh my god, it's more cards, peeps!
It's more
freaking cards!
It's more cards! You know what?
So, let's talk about Neurodeck.
Let's get into it. So Neurodeck is a card game, as most people know me for. They probably are sick of me talking about it, but I love the idea of Neurodeck in theory. Because what they do is it is a card, roguelike deck builder where you're going through and you're building a set of cards based on a specific person and a specific emotional trait. So the whole idea behind Neurodeck is you're fighting phobias. You're fighting kind of just fears that a person might have. Now, I think that the idea of this is insanely exciting as a person who, 1, loves the deck building and roguelike element of games, but 2, I have a lot of interest in psychological, just anything really. But disorders are one of the things that I loved back when I was in college. I took a lot of classes in this field. because I just think it's interesting. And so phobias from just the mindset of it is really cool to see, because what they do is they create these monsters that are based off of that. So you'll have something like arachnophobia, which is the fear of spiders, and you'll have a spider, right? Pretty basic. But then you'll have something like I forget what it's called, but it was like masculinity, and it's basically like this strong bodybuilder person. You'll have things like I wish I could remember the phobias names, but they're all like really weird. Because it's just how the phobia naming is. But you'll have ones like the fear of pregnancy, and it'll be this monster that is like this woman, like kind of like growing a child in her as you're fighting her. It's like that one's called tocophobia. Yeah, it's super creepy in a lot of cases, but I think it's really cool because they do things where the monsters that you're fighting kind of obviously depict that fear, and their move sets try to play into that, which I think is super cool. I think the concept of it is something that has a lot of potential. Unfortunately, the game, like, it was fun, and I played it and beat the campaign, or the couple of the campaigns, like 3 times. With one of the first characters that you get. You have to unlock the second one. But the way they do it is kind of interesting, because it's based on you have an emotion with that character, and that just means you have a different starting deck, so different types of cards that you might play. And then each one is very, deck-like roguelike deck builder, where as you're going through it, you're adding cards, removing cards, you're increasing stats to yourself, you're getting these things that one of the things that was really cool is they had a personality test in it. There's times where you could take a personality test, and it'll be like very basic. It's like 5 questions, and it'll be something like you'll get 2 different personalities that it'll show. It'll be like laziness or persistence or something like that, and you're like, okay. And then it'll be questions that you could clearly tell, like, this is what you want. If you want to get the lazy one, this is the persistence one, but you get to choose them, right? You could say, like, I want to answer them the right way, and you find out, oh, you're a lazy person, or whatever it is. It's seems kind of like an attack.
Gotta love that.
Yeah, it seems kind of like an attack, but whatever, it's fine. I could have said generous or greedy. That probably would have been better, but greedy still seems like an attack on the person. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Laziness is better.
The point is, if you get a lazy person, you get a perk, and so you have the ability to play or to have 3 different perks on your character for each run. So as you're going through, you get to take these personality tests, you get to get the perk, and I think it was really cool that they did this. I think the idea behind that, really smart from a psychological, like this phobia building world that you're in, this environment, but it doesn't really stick, because you answer those questions and then you're like, oh, so lazy equates to this perk, and those perks are always, at least from what I've seen, always the same. And then once you know what those perks are, you just pick the questions based on what build you want to go, right? So it
just kind of gets predictable.
So it gets predictable, and it also becomes a burden, because then you're like, okay, now I need to remember what each one goes to, so I can go for the right build, so I could go for whatever, as opposed to just being like an item type that you just be like, oh, that's the one. Okay, give me that. Right. It adds time to something that I think really detracts from the fun after the first, unique part of it, where you're like, oh, this is something cool and something different, but then you're like, okay, well, now it's pretty samey, right? And I think the biggest part, and this is why I wanted to talk about that, is because my biggest gripe with this is that I feel like it's wasted potential in a lot of areas where they could have made a really big story piece, or like kind of continuation to this, that I think they just, they didn't hit. And that's fine. Like, right, there's the obvious idea of scope and like what's in the game, but you're always playing this character, either one of the two, and you play them, but you never really play that character. As stupid as that sounds, like, you're never really like, there's no emotional attachment to who you are. There's no emotional attachment to that person actually having those fears, or just fighting random fears that are out there, right? Like, this could have been
like a player surrogate,
right,
versus being an actual character.
This could have been a story of you going through, like, I would have liked this game better if it wasn't a roguelike. It's just how like this game, the way it's set up, the environment, the story to be told in this should not be a roguelike, because it could be much more heavily crafted into a narrative that is a full dialogue of a person going through certain phobias and trying to defeat them with various things. And it could have been still, you know, it could still be a roguelike, right? But there needs to be more setup. There needs to be more of a path. There needs to be more attachment to who you are as the character. Those personality tests mean nothing because you're not really equating to any person, whether it be yourself or the character you're playing, because it's just getting that item, as opposed to it being like, you know, actual psychometric evaluations that amount to something from the narrative piece. There are a few like narrative things in the game where you can read dialogue that's randomly there, but like it's very hard for you to even know that you could click on this button that will give you story, and it's like very slow to scroll through. It like has this like fade effect, and you're just like, oh, I have no interest, and you just click because you're trying to get to the next part, right? So like I think the underlying mechanics, I think, were good. I liked it. I think that there's some bugs here and there. I don't know that this is like fully baked. Like there's certain things where you can't see like your discard pile, you can't see your exhausted cards, you can't see a number of things that I wish you would have just known that like other card games have done before them. But those are like easy ones to fix. Those are things that they can change. But what really irks me the most is that the game is fun, but I just think it could have been a lot better if it had more of a narrative attachment to the themes that it's trying to push. And I think it's one of those things where I talk about this, how I love when games take this approach of talking about tougher subjects. And I really enjoy that they do that. But in this case, I just don't think it was done well, because it brings up those phobias, but it brings up nothing about like they're just there, right? They're just depictions of those phobias, and you're just fighting them. But it feels like there's just something missing here. Like there could have been a real story to be told of this person dealing with those emotions or those phobias that they have.
Yeah, it's kind of like the difference between understanding what a phobia is and actually suffering from it. It's like, I understand that people are deathly afraid of spiders. Like one of my childhood friends, she is deathly afraid of bugs in general, but spiders, she's very, very freaked out. One of the strongest people I've ever known. Like, she's a fucking badass. But when she sees a spider, breaks down. It's like done. And it's the difference between understanding what that fear is. It's just like, okay, she's afraid of spiders, and actually living with that fear that seems to be the difficulty. Like, it seems to be the thing that they're trying to build a bridge toward, but they don't necessarily get there from what you're explaining.
Yeah, like I think it would have been so cool if you, and maybe this is their intention, but well, I guess not, because you're playing those cards. Like this would have been really cool if you were from the other angle of like the psychologist who is working with these random people, and trying to like find ways to change certain things. But it would totally change up the context and the gameplay. But I feel like there are pieces that are missing for me personally that made it not as an enjoyable experience. But I still, like, not to take anything away to the actual gameplay loop of it, I think it is fun. I just think this could have been done in a much more way where, like, if it had a lot of those points that I mentioned, which is a big overhaul. Like, I'm not saying that like they need that, but I'm sure if I feel that way, there's probably others that feel like this. But if they had that type of feeling and that type of narrative, I feel like this could have easily been a game that I would, sing praise to and be like, this is so good, everyone needs to try it, blah, 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 because it's talking about these subjects, it's a fun game, it's got this good loop. But like, instead it's more of like it's pretty good, you should check it out, I like the idea. But I like, this isn't going to be the next Slay the Spire, unfortunately. But I think, if you're into card games and deck builders, I think it's still a unique way to go about, because there is an interesting use of resource management that's different from other card games, I would say. So it's got a loop that I think people will appreciate. But like, if you're not into card games, this is definitely not going to be one that's ever going to break your interest and be like, oh, this will be the one I pick up, like, to try it out. Like, it's not going to be that type of game. But that's just how it is.
So it sounds like the way you're explaining it, like the narrative falls short, but the actual like roguelike deck building elements to it are actually pretty decent.
Yeah, they're not, I wouldn't say they're anything that's like mind-blowing, right? This isn't the next game that's going to just knock everyone's socks off.
They're not reinventing the
right.
wheel.
But I think that it was fun. I enjoyed the couple hours that I played through beating those couple of campaigns. I think that it's interesting they have the different emotion types, which are the starting decks. I think that having the different phobias there is just such a cool concept in general. I really enjoyed the personality tests at first, and the different events, so to speak, that happen through it. So there's a lot of positive things, but I just don't think it really hits the mark that takes it from like a good game, like an okay good game, to something that's great or amazing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, it seems pretty interesting. Once again, that one is Neurodeck by Tavrox Games, and take everything Josh says with a grain of salt, of course, because we were provided a code for the game. We did not pay the full price. So,
and thank you for
all that fun stuff. The games that I've been playing, mostly just revisiting some games I've talked about in the past, because like I'm now working from home and I just like figuring out shit to pass the time. Yeah. So it's like games that I can pause. So I've been playing more Lonely Mountains Downhill by Megagon Industries. What'd you say?
Did you say games that you could pause?
Yeah, games I can pause.
Oh.
So can you pause, Loopy?
Can I? You know what? I think you might be able to.
What? Man, sounds like a $15 investment that I need to make.
Also, before you do dive too deep into what you were going to talk about, I did want to shout out, not to throw like too much shade at Neurodeck. The developers are listening, and I thought this was really cool. Is they posted out like a big comment feed on Steam, their like discussion pages of being like, hey, we've heard people are having mixed feelings about this. Like, let us know what we can do. We want to make the game better. Like, give us your top feedback of things to change, and they're already looking into that. So they're not just being like, we're done with this. Like, if you have interest in this game, go shoot them feedback there. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Anyway, I am done. Please continue about games that aren't Loop Hero.
I mean, I was just going to say, like, honestly, with that thing, I would probably say, please, if you're coming from this podcast, keep your thoughts and feelings constructive. Don't be a dick about it. But
come on,
that should be said to everybody. I don't think that I'm not saying that our community is a bunch of dicks. They're definitely not. They're a very lovely bunch. No. But like, just if this is where you're hearing about Neurodeck and you get into it and then you play it and you aren't like necessarily satisfied with the experience, don't be really mean about it. Instead, offer constructive criticism.
Anytime I tell people to give feedback, I never want them to just shit on anything. I always dance around the subject. I hate trying to talk about something as if I don't enjoy it. It's why I struggle so much when I get to one of these moments and I have to be like, Neurodeck is good but could be better. Is like, it's real tough. No one should be a dick with this kind of shit, because like, why? There's like, if you don't like it and you just want to be like, your game sucks, like, just don't buy it.
Yeah, checks out. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be one to talk because I talk shit all the time, but whatever. Just feel like I said I should probably just go out there and say that. But sure. The games I've been playing, of course, Lonely Mountains Downhill, and I've been playing some more Downwell. Lonely Mountains Downhill is actually on Xbox Game Pass PC. I'm fairly certain it's on console as well. Super fun game. Of course, it's basically just like a game. It's you essentially start at the top of mountains and you just try to ride a mountain bike to the bottom, but typically there are like different paths you can go down and different challenges based on like making it down the hill in a certain amount of time or making it with like less than a certain amount of crashes. It's super fun. I really love it. I loved it back in like, I believe like 2018 when I talked about it, 2019. And I still love it today, getting back into it, trying out some of the different bikes, because each, like, you can get different bikes that have different stats, so you can make something like faster. It turns faster, but it has less shock absorption and stuff like that. Right. It's really fun to see how the different bikes actually match kind of like play styles. So I have been like, I'm going back to like all of these older levels because they have different tracks, different ways down the mountain, but you can, of course, try to find shortcuts. And me, I'm just like, you know what? I've gotten, like, my personal bests and everything. I've gotten to, like, the expert level stuff, but now I have to shave off even more time. And the only way to basically do that is to find shortcuts. So I'm trying to find them, but I'm trying to use, like, it's called the Boar is the bike type that I'm using. It has very little shock absorption. So if I fall, like, more than a foot, I fucking die. And it's so funny. Because you'll seriously just be like, I have to crawl up to ledges. Because if I don't touch something immediately, they're dead. So I'll just be like, normally you just zoom past something. You just shoot off, you get the shock absorption, you're like, yeah, fucking going. This one, I just gotta creep up to ledges so I could slowly fall down like a fucking elderly person. It's so funny, dude. But I'm really loving it. I love the game way back when. Still love it now. It's a lot of fun. And it's like, it's mindless and kind of peaceful. I just literally sit there and I'm just like doing my fucking thing. Like, you know, it's a nice game to play if you're currently working from home.
Just riding down the mountain. You talked about this before, and I wanted to try it then, and I still want to try it. Maybe I'll have to pick it up because it does seem like, you know, it's not anything that I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be the greatest game in the world. But it seems like it'd be a fun, like, just chill and play kind of game.
It's like excessively fun for being what it is. Like it's a very simple concept, but like I get really into it.
Yeah.
And like I love finding the shortcuts. Like over this past week playing it, I realized that like, so the tracks exist on the same mountain, so you can actually find another track. Like you can be going down one edge and you think something's a shortcut, but it's actually just leads you to another track. And it's kind of hilarious how many times I've tried to find a shortcut and been like, oh shit, this must be the way to find a shortcut, and go up it and can't go up something because that's actually part of the other track. And I'm just like, fuck.
Like,
and then I just have to restart from my checkpoint. Yeah. It's fun. I really like the game. I think it's a lot of fun. Plus, I like the whole like leaderboards section of it where you can go through and just constantly try to do better and better.
Yeah.
But it's really mindless, and like because of my job, like while playing it, like at my downtime at work, I can't actually listen to it. But when you do get to listen to it, it has a lot of like really, really awesome ambient noise. There's no music. It's just you with like these wilderness sounds. You're in the outdoors and you're riding down a mountain. That's it. It's very peaceful. I very much enjoy it. And then on the other side of this, a game that's not peaceful is Downwell. Fucking shooty booties forever.
Shooty booties, baby.
It's so much fun, but it's also just such a fucking hard game. Like you have to keep up with it so much. Like I've been playing this game just like on and off for the past week, and it totally throws me off that I can't put it in full screen, by the way. Like you can try to adjust the screen, but it still stays in its standard aspect ratio. So you're just basically like zooming in.
Yeah.
And so I can't actually make it my entire like 1920 by 1080p monitor. Instead, it just stays as like
big ass black bars on the side.
Yeah, on the sides that are like a solid foot between. Like literally, if you're looking at the video right now, this is how much you get. The distance between my two thumbs. And it's so funny, but it's also just like you don't need more than that because you're literally going down a well.
Right.
So it's like I don't know why you'd be so worried about it, in a sense. Like, I really love Downwell, though. Like, constantly having to pick the places where you're going to land and you're going to shoot, and then getting different power-ups. Like, the laser is the coolest fucking power-up. Where you only actually get 2 charges with your laser, but it fucking annihilates everything. It's awesome.
That's cool.
But then, of course, like, if you don't have it, when a bat comes after you, you're fucked. Like, it's so funny. So, I really love Downwell. I love just, like, the really repetitive nature of it, where you could just hop in and hop out. You don't really have to put that much into it. It's a very quick turnaround. Like, you die, you respawn in less than 10 seconds. It's very, very fast. It's, like, one of the things that a lot of Souls-like games I don't think do very well, because they have, like, these really, really long restart speeds. And I'm like, bruh, I'm gonna die a lot. Like, I'm not good at video games. You need to speed this fucking shit up.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. You've been doing so good on them streams. Every time I'm there.
I can't believe that I actually beat that boss last night. I was like, I had such a hard time with that boss when I first played Neo. Because if you don't know, I Twitch stream on Saturdays and Sundays from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Souls-like games specifically. I'm playing Neo right now, and I'm like on the third boss of the game. It's like a vampire lady who I thought was a hot waifu, and then I saw her eyes and she freaked me out. I was like, not into it. But yeah, I beat it first try last night, and Big Josh Boy pops in right on it, and he's just like, I need to stop showing up, because seemingly like whenever I show up, you're good at games.
And
it's not. It's just a fluke, dude.
Whenever I'm there, you're like, oh, I beat it. This wasn't so bad. I'm like, I want to see you get wiped. What is this?
Dude, it happens so often, bro. It happens so
Never
often
when I'm
where I
there.
just get fucking Shrek'd.
Never
by
when I'm
different
there.
things like bats.
Oh, speaking of Shrek, I know this has nothing to do with any games, but I put on Left 4 Dead 2. I've been playing a lot of that recently, and I started playing with mods, and I put one where you make Shrek the tank instead. So it is so good, man.
Do they constantly say, like, get out of my swamp?
Yeah, he's like, donkey! Like, anytime you hear that, you're like, oh, it's a tank! Look at it's so great, man. I love it, dude. If I could say one thing, man, every indie game, put mod support for your game, because, like, people are so funny, and they make such good stuff. Like,
I love that Shrek is always a mod. There's always a mod for Shrek, like Shrek Dragons in fucking, or Shrek Giants in the Elder Scrolls games, where it's just like, there's Shrek everywhere.
Yeah,
dude. Shrek is love, Shrek is
Shrek
life,
is life,
bro.
baby. I love it. It's, oh man, it's so good.
Ah, that shit's great. That's awesome. But that's pretty much what I've been playing. Lonely Mountains Downhill and Downwell. Check them out. Of course, Downhill made by Megagon Industries and Downwell made by Moppin, I believe. I'm not exactly sure. Both really, really great games. They're a lot of fun. And if you need just something mindless, because a lot of people are working from home right now, check them out. Also, I mean Loop Hero as well, because Josh is really into
Loop Hero is great. You should try it.
I do. I want to try it. It looks really good.
He'll never
But,
try
you
it.
know, just playing Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh,
But
let's go.
Our first news story for today is over on IGN. This one's written by Adam Bankhurst, and it is Devotion developer Red Candle Games teases a non-horror style 2D action title. I think it's interesting that I'm fairly certain that Red Candle Games has made one fucking game, and it just happened to be a horror game, and now everybody's so surprised.
That's all they know, man.
Their next game's not going to be a horror game. It's just like, they made, like, I swear, they've only made one game. And like, everybody's just expecting it from them.
That's not horror.
But
what could they possibly do?
I mean, to be fair, this also could have horror elements. We just don't know.
That's true.
That's like the smallest shred of a trailer. So, little did you know, Devotion developer Red Candle Games is teasing its next project. It appears to be a non-horror, stylish 2D action title. Red Candle Games shared a short video of its new project on Twitter, and it doesn't seem to be a... Okay, stop saying it doesn't seem to be a horror game. I honestly, like, this is pissing me off. They said it, like, in the title, and then they said it twice. They've said horror games like 5 times in like 5 sentences.
No, they said it appears to be a non-horror, and then they said it doesn't seem to be a horror. Different.
So true, so true. I always ask for fluff in articles, you know? That's what I love. But, Big Josh Boy, what do you think of this little work in progress? Obviously, it's like a really... I would actually say it's kind of like a creepy stylized world, because
Dude,
the trees actually look like fucking...
Like...
They're spines.
Yeah.
They look like spines. It's creepy.
I don't like the way they're moving. It looks so gross. That was the first thing I saw, and I was like, I don't like that. But
it also should be said that the world itself, like this really stylized look to it, it kind of reminds me of like a mix between like Grease and something like I would like to say similar to like a Jotun or Sundered. Like it looks a lot like that. It has a very similar art style. I think the art style to this game, because that's really all we can work off right now, that's how little there is in this,
right?
I think it's absolutely beautiful. It looks really, really cool.
Yeah,
I'll
agree.
Pleasantly surprised, because I'm not a big horror person, so seeing Devotion or the Red Candle Games move from what would be Devotion, like having seen bits of that, looks very PT-esque, move to something like this, big leap, and I think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I really enjoy this this snippet. It's only 12 seconds, so like we don't know anything.
Yeah.
All we know
Very
is that it appears to be a non-horror, and it also doesn't seem to be a horror game. That's all we could really tell from this.
I fucking hate you.
So, but honestly, like the characters in it, I like the weird. You know, we kind of mentioned it. It's a very like cutesy, but it's also kind of grotesque based on that background thing. I think that this plays into possibly a very fast-paced game from just the small snippet that we have, because those people rushing at each other. Like, I'm like this looks like my type of game from what it's you know showcasing here. So I'm, you know, it's one of those things where I hate talking too much about this because like, what could we possibly get? It's show me the game, but I am excited because I would love for the next time we talk about Red Candle Games to not talk about like, when's devotion gonna happen? And what about, you know.
Well, actually, we'll be talking about that later in this episode, so don't you worry.
I know.
Again.
But then eventually, yeah, because this game's not out yet. So we can't be like, wow, what a hit. And everyone just kind of like pushes that other thing in a corner and then forgets about it so we can stop talking about it. But, you know, I'm excited for it. I want to see what happens. Good luck to them, I guess. Hopefully they don't piss off any leaders in countries with this one, you know? That's probably their...
I kind of hope they do. I hope they go full bore.
Yeah.
They just like they take it the opposite way.
I guess you could
just
say
like, fuck it.
Every one of these games should be a different leader that they should attack. And so, you know,
not just Xi Jinping.
Not just, they should attack every single leader. This one's about
Donald Trump.
Every single one. Nah, I mean, that's kind of old news. I think they should attack every single leader from a country. Slowly over time, we all have a common enemy. Red Candle Games. Then we have world peace.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, I like your thinking. Also, I like the like old kind of like what I assume is Chinese mythology influences in the art style. I think it's really cool. Like you talked about that, like really, I mean, close clash at the end of it. Once again, it's only 12 seconds. So we're just like really milking this, just like IGN did with non-horror, and it doesn't seem like a horror game. But
I love it.
Like, I love that seemingly our main character pulls out like a talisman similar to like what would be in like Neo or in like Tokyo Ravens, like Onmyo magic.
Yeah.
It looks like that. And then the other character pulls out like a kunai. It seems very, very cool. I'm into it. I like the really stylized look, but of course, no fucking idea. Like,
we'll have to see.
This could be completely different. I don't know, in a year. So, or whenever they show it next. But I'm excited for it. I think it looks cool. But speaking of being excited for things, our next news story continues to be on IGN. This one is written by Matt TM Kim, not Tim. Well, I guess it sums it up. It's like a lot of the name.
Matt trademark
Matt TM Kim. And it is Xbox Showcase announced focusing on indies. ID at Xbox, Microsoft's Indie Games Wing, is teaming up with Twitch to host its first indie showcase on March 26th. Xbox is promising over 100 games at the event, including new debut trailers and gameplay for titles like Stalker 2, Second Extinction, and more. The ID at Xbox Indie Showcase will premiere on Friday, March 26th at 9 a.m. PT or 12 p.m. ET, and will be hosted exclusively on Twitch. Xbox is promising over 100 games total from indie developers worldwide, including from well-known developers like Devolver Digital, Drinkbox, Curve Digital, and more. Over 25 game reveals and gameplay trailers will be at the event, though Xbox only names a handful like Stalker 2, Second Extinction, The Ascent, The Wild at Heart, Void Train, and XO1, though Xbox's promo image includes games like 12 Minutes, which super excited to see more about 12 Minutes. Yeah. Of course, check out our developer interview for that. Yeah. This is an indie-focused event, so of course, they kind of go on to say, like, don't expect any, like, big new things from Bethesda or any of Microsoft's other, like, large properties. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we saw something from Double Fine about Psychonauts 2.
That would be a good time to be like, hey, by the way, it's almost here. Or who knows if it is, but I assume it should be.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
I'd love to play that.
It was only supposed to come out like last year, so just cross my fingers. Whatever. But I'm excited for this. I think it's awesome. Sadly, I'll be at work, so I won't be able to like really enjoy it. But 100 games, I think that's fantastic. And we'll talk about it in just a second. I think Microsoft and Sony right now are realizing that there's almost no reason to buy their consoles like currently, because you can play every game just on other stuff, and they don't really have an exclusives to like really blow shit up. So yeah, of course they've got like the early adopters and people who want to play like the best experience of old games, I guess, in a sense.
Right.
But I think they're just now realizing that the best way to bolster, or obviously this has been coming down the pipeline for a while, especially with Sony having like Shuhei Yoshida head up like the indie game initiative, but they've realized that like the best way to make their consoles worthwhile right now, or to at least have a stable library of games to play, is to go for indie devs, because there's millions of them and they need to get their fucking games out.
Yeah.
Like,
I
so
mean,
Big Josh Boy, are you excited for next Friday?
I actually am. You know, some people who follow me on Twitter or just in general might know that I recently got an Xbox. So I'm pretty hyped for this. Granted, I had everything from Xbox Game Pass, PC, and whatnot, but now there's like a large slew of games that only come to the console that I get to also play now. And I just am super excited for that 100 different games. I want to see like how much they really go into this, because it seems like it'll probably just be like a one after another. And like, is this something where they're coming soon? Like, it's over 25 game reveals, gameplay trailers will be at the event.
Yeah. That was something that I wasn't exactly understanding, why the two different metrics exist, where they're like, Xbox is promising over 100 games total from indie developers worldwide, but then it's over 25 game reveals and gameplay trailers.
Yeah, so
is it saying that just like there's only going to be like, obviously there's going to be over 25, but let's say like 30 gameplay reveals and gameplay trailers, and then the rest of it is just going to be stuff we already know?
Maybe, yeah. Like
maybe like updates or something like that?
Yeah, it'll probably be something like, here's like throughout, it'll be like, and Xbox also has some great indie games you can play now. And it'll be like a showcase of like just random indie games that already exist, but for the people who just might not.
Which is still cool.
Yeah, of course. But for the people who might not have seen it, right? But I'm still excited because I think, you know, I definitely want to hear more about 12 minutes. The other ones are interesting, but not as much. But I just want to see some of these other ones from, you know, Devolver Digital, Curve Digital. Like, what exactly is coming? Is this anything new? Is it anything that's just, you know, things that are out there? But like, I'm super excited because I think that Xbox is doing crazy things, especially since they'll probably do a good amount of these coming to Game Pass. And I think they're just like drowning us in games, which is great and also terrible. But I'm excited. I love seeing more indie games showcased, and it's a good time.
I'm very excited for the possibility that I just brought on myself. You know, the possibility of being let down by there not being Psychonauts 2 stuff. You know what I mean? Like, but I did it to myself.
So. Yeah, I would love to see it. And I think it makes sense in the context of a big indie game showcase. I don't think it'll happen, though. There's no way. That would be that like one more surprise thing that I'd be like, wow, smart on them. But like, I don't think they're ready. I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear it.
I don't exactly know. Because like the last thing we heard is that because of the Microsoft acquisition, they were able to implement a lot of stuff into the game that they previously were having to cut. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, yeah, that means they're going to be like a lot more dev time plus having to deal with COVID.
Right.
But once again, the game was supposed to come out last year, so you'd assume they were like relatively close.
I don't
like,
know.
Release, but
I don't know how much they're including into it. I don't know. And also they, you know, as much as I think it's a perfect fit because Double Fine was so much so an indie studio beforehand, Xbox might look at it and be like, well, it's kind of like
they might not consider it indie now.
Yeah, there's the one hand that like, yes, it was, but there's the other hand that like, it's not anymore. And it's kind of a slap in the face for all these indie people who, when Xbox is like, we're showcasing you. And then they're like, but also, what about us? Right? It's like, it's kind of like, I don't know about that, Xbox.
I mean, wouldn't it be cool if we saw, I mean, obviously we've only seen like screenshots, but wouldn't it be cool if we saw something from like Playdead, because they have such like a history with like the like Xbox platforms and like Microsoft specifically? Wouldn't it be cool if we saw at the very least like just a reveal of what they're working on? Because right now we've only seen the like couple screenshots that they put out.
Yeah.
And I think that was like a year ago that they had actually like really shown them.
Right.
So
I still don't think that's enough time. I don't think anything would be
really, not even to just make like a concept trailer.
Maybe for a concept trailer. I don't know.
I don't think it'll be like really far in development. We won't get like a release date, but I almost think that like it would be a big get. Yeah. If they just put out a teaser that's just like, this is the shit that we're going for.
Yeah.
Right now. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. I think that might happen.
Granted, like if I were Microsoft, I would not release anything saying that like Playdead was gonna be there, because I think that would be like a big deal, especially because like Inside was such a big hit among people.
Yeah, they probably would have
voiced
like, that if so.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think it would be really cool if they didn't say anything about it and instead just had it as their like one more thing.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I think it could be like a big hit, because Devolver Digital has always got something. Like they just put out Loop Hero. Yeah. Like they just published Loop Hero. So like they've always got something. So I don't think it's like the biggest of gets, because it's like they're always there. Anytime people are talking about indies, there's a game that's published by Devolver.
Yeah.
But like if you bring up something that's an indie, or you bring in an indie studio that has history with Microsoft and like has a really like in-depth kind of, it is ingrained in the culture of their console with Limbo and Inside, then I think revealing whatever Playdead's doing next would be pretty big at Microsoft. I don't think it would be as big if they revealed it as like at like a Sony conference.
Yeah. What about that Gunk game? I feel like that might get showcased.
Yeah, from Image and Form.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that, like them doing like a gameplay trailer.
Yeah, apparently,
because they only had like the reveal trailer.
Right. Apparently it's supposed to come out September 2021 based on Google, so maybe they do something to push that again, since that's getting closer.
That'd be cool. Especially because I think it's the console release is exclusive to Xbox One X.
I want to say it is, because they made a big stink about it being like, it's the strongest console, so we're going with this one because we needed to push it to its limits or something. I don't fucking.
Yeah, I remember thinking that was hilarious.
Yeah,
because I was just like, "There's no way that this couldn't have been done on PlayStation."
Yeah, but whatever. I mean, whatever.
No, I think that's actually really, really possible that we see something from the Gunk.
Yeah.
Especially because they're seemingly exclusive to that platform.
Right.
The next news story we have, once again, still over on IGN. This one written by Joe Screbbles is basically just a wrap up. So this one is PlayStation Indie Games, all the reveals and announcements today. So there was Sony announced or is providing updates on 7 PlayStation indie game titles, and we'll be rounding up all the news right here. Basically, they just revealed some stuff about Operation Tango, Chicory, A Colorful Tale, Noir, Play With Your Food, or Noir, Play With Your Food, don't know exactly how to say that, Where the Heart Leads, Puzzling Places, Heavenly Bodies, and Disco Elysium, The Final Cut, which we'll talk about later in News Cram. So, Big Josh Boy, haven't checked out some of these trailers. What did you think? Like, I didn't get to necessarily see
you didn't?
Whatever this, like, tiny showcase or whatever actually was, like actually checking it out, or them doing this in real time. I didn't get to see that. So now just going through, I don't think I would have been impressed.
I never really watched the PlayStation Directs or whatever they call them. I've just never really cared too much because of whatever. I guess you could call it fanboy, but I've just never really been too much of a PlayStation fan. But I went through later and watched all these videos, and some of these are really cool, actually. The one called, I don't know how you pronounce it. I think Knower, Play With Your Food,
it looks really interesting.
So cool, dude. This is a Josh-ass game. The fact that it's just like trippy-ass music, food flying everywhere. Like, I think it's so cool that it also works with a controller, that you could like sing to it and it'll like react or like blow into it. Like, so dope. Project Tango or Operation Tango looks cool. I actually want to try to get that, because all of these, or at least I think most of these, are not exclusive to PlayStation. It's just one of those things where, since it's PlayStation's Direct. It's like they try to make it look exclusive, but most of them aren't.
Yeah, I mean, guaranteed like Chicory, Disco Elysium aren't, and I would assume none of them really are. The only one I actually think might have some sort of tie would be the newer game because they show them using it.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think that's just a PlayStation like is that you have that cool effect. I believe when I looked it up earlier, it wasn't, and there would be a PC version as well. Let's see. It looks like Microsoft Windows. Yeah, Microsoft Windows. So I don't think it's for Xbox, but I think you can get it on PC.
Okay.
But I might be wrong. Let me do a quick vamp for me. Yeah, it says PC.
I mean, they totally do the just as annoying thing as fucking Nintendo Life does, where it's like, just because this is in a PlayStation showcase,
I mean, but that's the whole
90% of them, they only talk about it on PlayStation, with the exception of Operation Tango, where they're just like, yeah, it was previously announced for PS4, Xbox One, and Steam.
But like, I think that's kind of like, why would you do that for every single one of them? It's a little bit of just, it's annoying for the person to write. And, you know, if it's really that interesting, you could do your own research and be like, is this only PlayStation? But it's an obvious marketing ploy, because the same way that Xbox tried to make Yakuza 7, the Like a Dragon, seem like it was, you know, only for I think it was exclusive to Xbox. Maybe I'm thinking of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Like one of them, it was Valhalla, because they kept pushing it for excuse me, I'm going off on a rant, but they kept pushing it in like Xbox Directs or whatever they call them, and trying to make it seem like it's only exclusive to that platform, because that way people see that and they recognize it and they're like, oh, I have to get it on Xbox. Like,
yeah, you're trying to associate the two in your head. It's like Pavlov's dog or whatever, where it's just like, you consistently, every time you show Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you also show like a Microsoft logo. So you're just like, buy it. You think about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you like have to buy it on Xbox because it can't exist on any other platforms. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, but it's definitely a marketing ploy. I think it's kind of interesting. Granted, while looking through some of the trailers, I'm like, what is this fucking game? Like, I don't think a lot of these trailers are really good at actually showing what the games are. So, like, Operation Tango shows a lot, and it seems really cool, but I don't know what that game is. They're just like, it's an asymmetric co-op puzzle game. Operation Tango is launching. Like, it's, okay, thank you for telling me that, but I still don't understand what the game is. Same thing with the like newer thing. Seems very cool,
but I don't know how it works. Yeah,
what the fuck is it?
Yeah,
like they're just like match up notes, and I'm like, well, dude, I have to have a keyboard. Like, what do you mean match up the notes? I don't understand how this works. Yeah, like, and of course there's Where the Heart Leads. That seems to be like an adventure game. That one seems pretty easy. Puzzling Places seems pretty easy. Heavenly Bodies seems fairly easy as well. But there are just like several of these games. I guess specifically just the two.
Yeah,
I'm like,
well, I want to.
What the fuck is this?
In our next article, I want to talk about that, because there is a game trailer in the next article that is so much worse than these. That is 100% sure.
Okay, well, since you already brought it up, let's head over to Twinfinite for our last article. This one is written by Giuseppe Nelva, which is a very cool name that I probably did not say correctly. Today's Media Indie Exchange hosted a beefy game dev direct live stream showcasing tons of upcoming indies. Of course, this was the 13th. This was, like, I'm fairly certain this happened on last Sunday, so it's just kind of weird because like last Sunday, last Saturday, I didn't get to include it in last week's episode, so it's a little odd. But yeah, this one, we have like a bunch of stuff. So we get to see Aerial Knights Never Yield by Neil Jones, Wave Break by Funktronic Labs, which once again, we have a developer interview for that one, so check it out. First Flash Trouble by Invisible Walls, Chasing Static by Headwear Games,
that's a
Deepest Chapter by those awesome guys, Murder Mystery Machine by Blazing Griffin, and Chesso Club by, did I say something incorrectly?
No,
you just like started laughing.
No, you didn't. They have First Flash Trouble, which should be First Class Trouble. It's a typo on their part, and I think it's funny because that's the game I wanted to talk about.
Oh, okay. I mean, I didn't even look at this trailer. What? Okay, so tell me why you don't like this one.
First Class Trouble is a very interesting, and I love the style to it, because it has very much that those old school, like the BioShock, you know, when you'd get a plasmid, they'd have like that little cartoony, like old school time vibe to it, and they'd be like, you know, ignite all your problems away, and it'd be like by the snap of a finger, and it would be like a little guy who's like, and then everyone would go catch on fire, and you'd be like, haha, it's cutesy and fun, whatever. So that's like this entire trailer for First Class Trouble. Does not show anything about the game, does not talk about what the game is. I was like, what am I looking at? And it's a 2.5 minute video, and I was like, I have no idea why I sat through that. I then went to like a video of like, what is this to watch? And it's just like very much a like a deception game, kind of like an Among Us type game. And I was like, well, that's cool, but like would not get that from your trailer. Like you should not showcase this as the main thing without any, like, trailers are so tough to get right. And I feel like these are really cool and it's a nice catchy way to do it, but like show gameplay halfway through, show something that I know what I'm looking at.
It's often enough the problem I have with Kickstarters where I'm just like, I don't understand. What the fuck? Looking up this game? What? Why would you have that trailer?
That's what I'm saying. It looks nothing alike.
Oh my God. That's like, see, oh my God. Speaking of a fucking deception game, their trailer is a deception game. Mm-hmm. They're fucking making you think this is going to be like a Pip-Boy-esque like Vault Tech game. And you're just like, you go to it and you're running around like people in fucking Phasmophobia looking derpy as shit. Yeah. What the hell is happening?
Yeah. Super weird.
Yeah, that fucking threw me, dude. I expected to at least have the same art style.
No. Very weird.
Not even close. Oh my gosh. But of course, there's the stuff like Wave Break, which is really cool. I mean, guarantee you, even if I would have known this was happening at the time it was, fucking 5 hours of a live stream? Holy shit, no.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah, if I wasn't to work last Saturday, there's no way I would have watched this whole
Yeah, I
match.
wonder how much of that was like what was the filler for that, since these are just the short trailers. Like how much did they showcase? I wonder.
They showed a lot of like gameplay from different games, and they had like developer interviews and stuff like that as like interstitials and stuff like that.
That's cool,
so I think it's really cool when they do have gameplay, because once again, that's like a really integral part of selling a video game, is showing what the actual game is.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just, it's so fucking long. It's outrageous.
I mean, I think it's cool if you're just going through it and there's all this. Oh, Jenny's there. I don't even know Jenny was going to be talking through some of these.
I mean, naturally, you bring up indies and you need to show a face. This guy had Jenny Wyndham.
I guess that's true. Anyway, sorry, I'm just like quickly scrolling through. But I think it makes sense though, because if they're doing like all of those things, you know, developer interviews, having people play it, it makes sense. I've never really heard of Game Dev Direct though. Maybe I'm just dumb.
Me neither.
I don't know. I feel like
over 2 years of doing this, I don't think I've ever seen this.
Yeah.
I literally only knew about it because like after the show on Sunday or something, I went on Steam to see, I think like I added Loop Hero to my wish list or something, and it just happened to like I saw it as one of the cards on Steam in the store, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Man, how does Jenny?
That's pretty interesting.
How does Jenny get on all these things? When do we get IndiePod to host some direct? Huh?
I would imagine when I eventually stop talking about my dick and balls on the show.
Oh, it's your fault.
Eventually, when that happens.
Damn it. Yeah, I don't think we'll ever do it, but I'd love to. Man,
it would be cool.
Oh, man, I like almost choked. That would be such a cool moment.
One thing that I totally have beef with a lot of Showcase. Like one problem that I would say is that they need to have more than just a pre and post roll of what the game's name is. They just have a fucking lower third that constantly has the game's name throughout the entirety of gameplay. Because if somebody pops in and they're like, this is a cool game, I wonder what it is. I mean, I guarantee you they do that so that it's like, oh, I gotta keep watching to see what it is. But like, I imagine it actually has the adverse effect where people are just like, I mean, fuck it, I guess I'll find out later. And then they just forget about it. Like, because there are games that I've seen in here before and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. Like, I already know what that is because we've covered it on IndiePod. But others, I'm just like, I would like to add that game to my wish list, but I have no idea what his fucking name is.
I'd love because there's got to be a way to do it, but I'd love for like for those that are doing Twitch streams or even for YouTube Live, there's like, you know, there's interactable buttons that come up. Like I'd love for it to be like the video comes up, and then anytime you have one, write down, instead of like even like get rid of the lower third, just change that lower third to literally be like a wish list button or a Twitter page button that would just like in while you're watching the video, you could click it if you want. Like that'd be
very
so useful, because there's so many times where I watch these as like a you know, I don't think everyone watches it the same way, but like I watch it because a lot of these times I'm like, oh, I need to talk to this person because either I want to try to get us a code, or I want to try to get us someone who's going to be, you know, the interview, developer interviews. So like I'm doing it in that kind of way, and I would love to just have a quick, easy button for that. I mean, it's kind of lazy, but like I'd love for it to just be quicker, and I'm sure it would help other people who just want to be like, oh, I wonder what that is, or just to have it where it's a quick Steam wish list button, so that people are easily just clicking that on.
Well, that's one of the like principles of web design, is making things easy, like the usability of your site, because most people refuse to take an extra step. And it's like, if you really want somebody to check out your stuff, you have to do the legwork.
It is so true, man.
It might be annoying, but you have to do it so that they will actually check it out.
It is the number one rule in any type of like consumerism piece. Like there are so many things that I have given up on just because I'm like, you mean I have to do this myself? Fuck that.
I have to take 10 extra minutes to do this? What?
And it would be something that would be so beneficial to me, beneficial to the other person. Like it's a win-win situation, but you asked me to do one extra step, and I'm like, fuck that. And I'm out. Like, and it's...
Yeah, we've even talked about it, how you used to like refuse to switch out your mic.
Yes. Yeah.
And now you have two different setups just because you don't want to switch out your mic.
Two setups because I'm fucking lazy. And you know what? That's just the way it's gotta be.
I mean, it's just how humans are. So we gotta get like used to it, and I think like we're slowly coming up on it with live streams. But no, that would be really cool to have like just a button. But we've sucked these news stories dry, so it's time for us to hop into news cram, Big Josh boy. In case you didn't understand what I just said, because I said it in a lisp like Sylvester the Cat, we're hopping into news cram. So let's do that. Of course, news clam.
News clam.
Fucking. Nah. News Cram is our weekly wrap-up segment where we're the hosts of Indie Pod and Indie Games Podcast. Cram you full of all sorts of indie games news. This week in News Cram, we do have 3 quick news stories. No new deals or quick steals, but we do have a whole bunch of new stuff. So, our first quick news story for today comes by way of IGN, where it's reported that massively popular survival craft game Valheim by Iron Gate AB has surpassed 6 million units sold. They're also teasing their like most recent update, but it was like an image, so I didn't include that. That RPG Disco Elysium, the final cut, has been refused classification in Australia. This is due to its depiction of sex, drug use, and violence, among other things. So currently, as it stands, you actually cannot buy, or when it comes out, if they do not make any changes to the game to get it actually certified in Australia, fucking the Wombat Empire of Australia will not allow you to purchase it.
I wonder if Phil even likes that game, though.
I mean, maybe that's why. Maybe Phil just has, like, beef with ZAUM or whatever. He's like, ain't gonna let those commies into my country. And, like, he fucking vetoed Disco Elysium, the final cut.
Too much sex, too much drugs for me. Don't like it.
And lastly, over on Twinfinite, where it's reported that Roguevania Dead Cells by Motion Twin has sold over 5 million copies. This is a good time to use the word million. Not like 500,000 to try to throw everybody off. This is 5 million. Okay.
Also a lot.
It sold over 5 million copies, and that their Bad Seed DLC is headed to mobile on March 30th.
Man,
now on to some new stuff.
Can we take a quick break on that? Isn't that fucking nuts that Dead Cells has just hit 5 million copies, but Valheim in like a month has just hit 6 mil?
Yeah,
that is
pretty
mind blowing.
Yeah, and they're in early access.
That is...
They're like, it's basically like this unstable, janky-ass version of the game, but it's sold more than some of the most popular indie games.
That is mind-blowing how much in such a short time they have made.
Yeah.
Good God.
It's insane. And, I mean, I don't know how long the Valheim train is going to keep going, because of course, like, Among Us has pretty much been wiped from the face of the earth. That was like months ago. Like, games have moved on to Valheim. But I'm crossing my fingers that it's going to keep that train going until like 1.0 or something like that. Like, let's fucking do it.
We'll see.
But I do hate the fact that every other article on every website is just something about Valheim. And it's like the same shit. It's just different top 10 lists on how to be good at Valheim. And I'm like, I don't know if I can play the game.
I hate, dude. So another tangent. Like, I really hate those articles because they're never good. Anytime I look at those, I'm like, when I was thinking about, oh, Loop Hero, I wanted to, like, let's look at some tips and tricks. And they're like, place the cards down. And you're like, bitch, who doesn't know this? Who needs this article? It's a tutorial.
You're like, you literally just took the text from the tutorial and fucking put it in your article, bro. Like, what are you doing?
I don't know. Sometimes you look at that and you're like, do we need this? Who reviewed this? Who thought this was okay?
Yeah, there are a few times with the tips and tricks things, you're just like, what?
Like, you don't know
what. Like, did you know you could put on a cape? And you're just like, yeah.
You don't know what tips and tricks is. It's just basics.
Yeah. I do. I mean, there are also the tips and tricks that's like, I saw one that was like, did you know you can actually plant fucking dynamite in Red Dead Redemption 2? And I was like, I didn't. Like, that took me so long to figure out how to open safes in Red Dead because you actually have to walk up and plant the dynamite on the safe. Fucking blew my mind. Blew it.
Also blew the safe
straight
up.
Sky high. Yeah, blew the safe as well. Fucking thanks, Twinfinite. I believe it was on your guide, so thank you. Now on to some new stuff. Our first 12 items in new stuff come by way of Nintendo Life, where it's reported that action RPG Man-Eater by Tripwire Interactive is headed to the Nintendo Switch on May 25th. That open-world action game Rustler by Jutsu Games is headed to the Nintendo Switch sometime later this year. Rustler is basically like medieval GTA. Like early GTA, like Chinatown Wars and like the original few games. So it's like isometric. It's very interesting,
that sounds
but
legit.
It looks weird. Yeah, you should check it out. Like if you like the early GTA games, I'm not talking about like GTA like 3 GTA or 1. Vice City, like Ballad of Gay Tony or any of that.
Like the old PlayStation
I'm talking about
version.
Early GTA Chinatown Wars shit. Yeah. Like this Rustler looks like that, but it's in medieval times and it's
I love
weird.
the cop cars are just horses that are blinking.
It's weird, dude. It's weird. That 3D action platformer Blue Fire by Roby Studios is getting a physical release on June 25th. That's seemingly across all platforms, not just on the Nintendo Switch. That adventure game Genesis Noir by Feral Kate Den is headed to the Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam on March 26th. That action-packed puzzle game Ape Out is getting a physical release on the Nintendo Switch through special reserve games with pre-orders live at the time of this recording. That action I scrolled and totally lost my place. Okay, action roguelike game Danger Scavenger by Buterwolk and Star Drifters is headed to the Nintendo Switch on March 25th. That first-person psychological horror game Evil Inside by Yondusoft SL is headed to the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam on March 25th. That action roguelike game Godstrike by Overpowered Team is headed to the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam on April 15th. That psychological horror game it's psychological horror short story Chasing Static by Headwear Games is headed to the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam sometime in Q3, which is like, I believe, late summer. That narrative puzzle game Fire Tonight by Reptoid Games is headed to the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam sometime in Q2 2021. That open-world survival craft game Nira by Baseline Games is headed to the Nintendo Switch sometime this spring. And lastly, that skateboarding game Wavebreak by Funktronic Labs is headed to the Nintendo Switch and PC via Steam sometime late spring. Now over to Twinfinite, where it's reported that adventure game Read Only Memories Neurodrive by Midboss LLC is headed. It has unfortunately been delayed to 2022, but I believe it also in their update said that it's coming to PlayStation 5. So that's pretty cool. Now over to IGN, where it's reported that the new airship map in Innersloth's popular deception game Among Us will be releasing on March 31st, 2021. That indie darling Undertale by Toby Fox is now available on Xbox Game Pass. And that delisted horror game Devotion by Red Candle Games is now available digitally through their very own eShop, which I believe is linked through their Twitter. So you can get Devotion, and you can get their later games, and if they've done other games, they said basically all their future and like past titles will be released DRM free through their eShop. Nope. So they won't have any problems, which I think is hilarious. That wasn't it they were going to come to, I'm trying to remember, what is it? Oh, GOG. They were going to come to GOG and they were going to have a DRM free version, but then that got canceled at the last minute and everybody's just like, this is sketch.
What happened though?
Yeah. So there you go. You can still get your DRM free. You just pay the developer directly, which is really, really cool. Now over to The Gamer, where it's reported that co-op adventure game Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons by Starbreeze Studios AB is getting a physical release on the Nintendo Switch on March 25th. That puzzle game Dungeon and Puzzles by Neko List is headed to the Nintendo Switch on April 1st. And that narrative adventure game Where the Heart Leads by Armature Studio is headed to the PlayStation 4 on July 13th. And to round out the group, this is going to end soon. Over on GameSpot, it is reported that Animal Crossing style game Cozy Grove by Spry Fox LLC is headed to Steam, Apple Arcade, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and the Nintendo Switch on April 8th. And that narrative card game Signs of the Sojourner by Echo Dog Games is not only available on PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox One, but also just received a new update that adds 5 new characters to the game. I included that because I thought I had talked about it last week in God Bless the Crowd, or in News Cram, because I remember bringing it up to you.
Because you asked me, would I go back to it? And I said no.
Yeah. I remember bringing it up to you, but GameSpot wrote this article like days after everyone else did, so it totally threw me off. So I was like, on the off chance that I forgot to actually include this or something. Yeah, I figured I'd include it anyway, but whatever.
It doesn't really matter. Signs of Sojourner was great. If you haven't checked it out, get it. There
you go. And it's time for us to get back to the creators in our next segment, God Bless the Crowd. This is where the biggest of average Josh Voice, dude, what is happening?
Inside the voice.
God, I hate myself. The biggest of average Josh Boys hops into all sorts of crowdfunding sites, finds something awesome for us to talk about, and we do just so. This week, we're headed over to Kickstarter to check out a game called Scrabdackle, a wizard's first adventure. Explore a curious world worth getting lost in, armed with wizardry skills and unwizardly empathy. So the developers are looking for $19,161 as their goal. They currently have $15,346 at the time of this recording, with 181 backers and 24 days left to go. This is by Jake Friend, I believe, is what they're the person who's like running the campaign on Kickstarter. I don't know if that's actually the developer, but whatever. We're just going to go with it. So, Big Josh Boy, of course, to get in on the ground floor, they still have their early bird available at the time of this recording. They still have like 20 left, so I don't know if they will later, but yeah, check it out if they do. That is for $15, but if you're too late, you can get it for $16 normally, which I say not a great early bird incentive.
Yeah, it's only like $1. Say it's like $1 in US and like $2 Canada that you save from early birds. So
I'm like, bruh. Normally it's like $5. Like it's a little weird. But granted,
it's early
money
bird.
Exchange rates are different in Canada and everything. So I'm not there ain't no judgment over here. So
sounds like judgment.
Big Josh Boy, what do you think of Scrabdackle?
This game looks good.
Okay.
Man, I looked at this game and I was like, this looks weird.
It's giving me hardcore Whoopo vibes.
That's why. Yes. Yeah. The art style to it alone, I was like, I want this. This is one of those games where I'm like, I might back this, because I don't know. It looks really cutesy. I like the way they're doing the world and the environment. I like the story of you just being this like noob wizard who gets thrown out and you're like, all right, I guess I'll just walk around and do stuff and try to save the world. I like the enemies you're fighting. The combat seems simple but fun. Like, I like that it's very much a almost like bullet hell. Like, it reminds me of a very Enter the Gungeon, but you using your magic wand. I like that the actual attack.
Granted, it does look more tame than Enter the Gungeon.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like, it seems much easier.
Which, that's fine. All right, we don't need to get into the complexities of how hard Enter the Gungeon is. But I really enjoy like the fact that the resource that you're using for your attack is kind of like a charge system. So it's not just like spam your attack. It's like you have to be thoughtful about when you're using it to some degree. I think that the characters in the world are pretty cool. Like, I really like the weird ass, like, what is he? He's like I don't even know, like a squirrel or something. This
are you talking about that weird like ghostly squirrel cat thing that it looks like Totoro from My Neighbor Totoro?
Yeah, dude.
Like, it looks weird.
I like the fact that conversation, you walk up to people and they like will just talk to you, or you could just walk away. Like, you're not stuck in like hitting buttons. Like, I know it's a very small thing, but I think it's very good because like I hate games where you're just stuck clicking that button and you're like, would you just stop talking to me?
Yeah, that is something that they've pointed out in this Kickstarter, is that like you are in control. They try not to take it away from you.
Yeah.
And that also extends to dialogue, where it's just like, doesn't mean you have to listen. You can just walk away.
Which I think is great. Like, I love that as a concept of them, like, not even just for that part, but them thinking about ways to make it more, I don't want to say accessible, but just like improved to just focus on like what makes the game fun, right? To make it more of like how you want to play is kind of, you can make those choices. I don't care for this very much like scanning portion of it where you're like, do you want to fill the lore book out? Keep your mouse on them for an extended period of time. That part, I'm like, stop doing this in games. I hate games that do this scanning thing. I just picked up or tried for a little bit Journey to the Savage Planet, and I was having fun with it. I didn't talk about it because I don't really care too much, because I played it and I was like, this is a good game, but like, it's just a lot of scanning things, and I don't like doing it. I'm like, it's just a waste of my time. So that part I'm not as...
I mean, I actually like that shit. Like, I specifically add the scanner to my equipment in No Man's Sky so I can like scan shit.
I know. It's good. It's good jelly, not my jam, right? Like,
yeah,
a lot of people like that kind of thing. I don't. It's just extra steps for not what I care about. I'm like, could you just tell me what this is? And if I need to know, like, I don't want to look at everything and fucking like, what's that plant over there? Like, I don't care. That being said, like, I think, you know, maybe it'll be fun because you're also like dodging and whatnot, and it's like a different type of scanning. I don't know. I don't think
it's not a passive like, it's not a passive scan. You actually do it while in combat.
Right.
So like, you use the scry spell and you have to hold it on them, so it's like you actually have something to worry about, I would say, when doing it. Think, versus in like No Man's Sky, it's just like, I could get my ass trampled, but 90% of the time it's just like, what does that plant do? And I just stand there.
And granted, like, I think it also is very dependent on how tough it is to change to that spell, because I think, like, for me, it's always that changing to your scanning mode, like, if it's not intuitive, but if it's not just like quick to do it and like to just get to that point, if I have to like stop what I'm doing and be like, where is that spell? Like, that part is why I hate those scan modes, is just because I'm like, this is too many steps. I don't care. Just tell me what it is or don't. Like, stop. What are you doing? But yeah, the art style to it reminds me a lot of Wuppo. I think that the characters in it and the way they, showcased in the trailer has like a kind of goofy nature to it that I'm definitely down for. It looks like something I would enjoy, and I am pretty hyped to see it come out.
It looks really cool. Honestly, the only thing that I have like anything I would say at all negative to say about it is I just want to know how the spell system really works.
Yeah.
Because they talk about it, that spells are the abilities you collect in the world. This versatile skill set will be valuable both in battle and in uncovering and accessing new areas and like stuff. It's like, I just want to know, like, I guess I want to know about these spells in the way that they translate to combat. Like, if I get different spells, does it change how combat works, or is it basically just like I have a standard, like what is it, the Strata Blast, is that
the pew pew, if you will,
witch brand? Yeah, you've got like the slashy slash and the pew pew. But I want to know about other spells and how they work in combat. But so far it seems the only things they've showcased are the Stratablast and what would be the Scry spell, which is what we already talked about.
Yeah. I mean,
so
I
want to know
they have a list.
the other spells.
Yeah, they have a list of some things. Like they have like this Rising Rock, which is summoning pillars and creating like
animate element.
Yeah.
They have like a bunch of different ones, but it's one thing to read it and it's another thing to actually see how it works. Because it's just like this Icewind Gale. This cool spell causes a freezing breeze to erupt from your wand, blowing enemies backward and freezing water, basically creating like icy pathways. I think that's really cool, but I would like to see how that actually translates into the game.
Yeah.
Because it could look stupid, I guess, is my deal.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know. I've been really into like the idea of magic systems recently, mostly just because of my fucking Isekai obsession. So like I really like the idea of this game, and especially for like $15 if I want to get on the early bird. I think it looks really worth it. It's like super odd and very quirky. I would say that's the easiest way to describe this game, or at least the world that it exists in is quirky. But yeah. Seemingly the big Josh boy likes it, so
yeah. If we didn't have so many interviews queued up that this goes past the date that this ends, I would definitely try to immediately get them on to be like, let's showcase your game. But good luck to them. It looks like, I mean, it's only been a couple of days. Like they still have 24 days to go, and they've made some serious progress on that goal. So I am in the assumption that they'll make it. But if it sounds interesting, check it out because it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I think this one definitely gets funded. I mean, at the very least, check it out just to see the weird art style. Like it's very cute. I'm not saying that it's like anything like mesmerizing. It's not gonna blow you away. It looks like childish doodles, but it's very cool.
Yeah,
I like it a lot. I don't know. It's an interesting way to design your game.
I really enjoy it, even though when I look at it, the way that I would describe it is very much it's just like if a kid was kind of like drawing a world, like an environment, and you'd be like, this is kind of nice. You could probably do better, but negative connotation to that aside, I really enjoy it. I love just the derpiness of the one enemy that is literally just like a big raisin. Like he looks ridiculous, but I'm like, nah, so cool. Good character. Good stuff.
Yeah. Granted, my one issue with like combat and everything, I can actually kind of test that out because they do have a demo available over on itch.io. So if you're interested in this game, head over on Kickstarter. Once again, it is called Scrabdackle. That's all one word. It's SCRABDACKLE.
That is correct.
It's like a long word, Scrabdackle. Make sure to follow us at IndiePod because I do tweet out about what games we covered, and God bless the crowd. This game looks really interesting, so if you're into it, you can get in on the ground floor at the very least, $16. I guess the very least is 15, but those will probably be taken. So let's just say it's 16 for right now. They do have a Discord channel, and make sure to follow their Twitter, which is at JakeFriend_dev for updates on the game. Looks really, really interesting. I made sure to follow an IndiePod because it looks cool. But it's time for us to hop into our last segment of the podcast. This is when all of the amazing peeps in the community write in their questions and we answer them. This is aptly named Audience Questions. So the first question comes from
such an explanation that I feel like you did not need to do at all.
Yeah, never needed to do it.
That was the exact representation of it's not a horror game and it is a non-horror game.
So go beyond my Hero Academia podcast. So Chris wrote in and said, who between the two of you is the most plus ultra? So Josh asked me before the podcast what exactly that means. I have no idea. Because I've actually had to explain this to him before because Chris has written in a very similarly worded question. Going plus ultra is just surpassing your limits. That's it. It's just like I would say it's a try hard. It's somebody who's always like trying to push further than they feasibly can go. That is what being plus ultra is. Typically it's used in a nicer context than I am currently explaining, but yeah, that's what it is.
Yes,
so
surpassing goals and being better than what you are at some point in time. Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, it has to be you, because I never try to be better than I am. I just try to be who I am. Let's be real. Like, it's not a deal for me to go plus ultra, I would say.
Ultra, baby. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty lazy, but like, I guess.
Yeah, comparatively though. It's just like a lazy person compared to me is like, man, they doing a lot.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, not to toot my own horn, but I do hear that from my job. Like specifically, they're always like, "Oh, you finish stuff really quick," and I'm like, "I don't know, I'm just working. Like, I don't know."
They're like, "Sorry, I'm not playing Downwell while I'm supposed to be working."
Well, yeah, that's true.
Some fucking people.
That's probably that's probably why. That's probably why. Maybe if you stopped playing games while you were at work, things would get done.
Maybe. I mean, it does get done.
Maybe they'd get done like better.
That's fair. That's fair. So, my friend, Chase Hopkins, fan of the show, writes in and says he's got 2 questions for us. So his first one is, who is your favorite fictional character? Mine is Mitch Rapp. I've read or listened to the books with him in them, 19 in total, at least twice, and I'm working on a 3rd time. I have to stop all the time and just think to myself, he's so fucking cool. So I believe they made a movie based on, like, somewhat based on the books called, I believe, like American Assassin, starring the guy from Maze Runner. I forget his name. He's a cute boy. But yeah, so I don't know what the books are actually called, but his is Mitch Rapp. So who is your favorite fictional character, Josh?
Goofy.
Really?
Goofy.
You want to go with Goofy?
I want to go with Goofy.
All of the fictional characters that exist, doesn't even have to be like a cartoon or anything. You want to go with Goofy specifically.
Goofy.
Why?
Hooey. I think Goofy has a lot of like. So Goofy for me is a character that I have loved for a lot of reasons. Obviously, the first one is if you don't know the old school Goofy cartoons where he tries to build something, like do yourself a favor and watch those. Those are so funny. But 2, for some reason, a buddy of mine, one of my really close friends, we both really liked Goofy, and we would always make jokes about Goofy. And it became like, more or less an inside joke thing of just like, Goofy as a character. We both had matching Goofy mugs at one point because we both worked at a like the same job and had these mugs, and it was just one of those things. It's actually the reason why I call myself the Jorsh, is just because it was the conceptualization of like Goofy saying my name.
Gorsh thing?
Yeah, him being like Gorsh, and my buddy would just always be like, "Oh, the Jorsh," and so it just kind of like it stuck as a thing for me, and I was like, I really like that. And so like for me, I feel like it has to be Goofy because of that.
Okay. I mean, that's much more of a definition than I thought of it. Like an explanation than I thought I would get. I thought you were just about, I like Goofy.
Be like, he's funny.
I like Turtles. For me, my favorite fictional character, of course, naturally, there's like millions of them. Like I'm a big fan of fiction, but I would say my favorite fictional character probably has to be Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly. So it's Nathan Fillion's character. I'm just a big fan of that character. I love him. It made me like really fall in love with the characters Nathan Fillion plays. Like I love, including the like short Uncharted films, like kind of a thing, like the fan-made films with Nathan Fillion. I've never watched Castle, granted, but Malcolm Reynolds has just made me adore anything Nathan Fillion does. Like, it's made me love Cade Six. I mean, he's just awesome, but he's also just robot Malcolm Reynolds, so it's like even better. And I adore Firefly in general, so it just really pushes it into high gear. I want to check out the comics so bad because of course, that show was canceled way too early and aired out of order. Serenity is a really good movie, but what'd you say?
I said so they say. Everyone.
Yeah. You've never checked out Firefly?
No, I've never checked it out.
So
but yeah,
good,
anytime I talk to someone who has, they're always like, so great, shouldn't have been taken off. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Space westerns, dude. Fuck yeah, bro. It's so awesome. I love it so much. I want to check out the comics so bad. But yeah, I love Malcolm Reynolds. I love his, like, I don't know. I love the, like, suave, like, tough guy persona, but he's actually just, like, I don't know. I'm a big fan of, like, westerns in general. Yeah. And typically they have a very stereotypical main character who's just, like, somebody, it's like a damaged cowboy. Like, they're a cowboy with issues. Right. And that's what Malcolm Reynolds is. He's, like, basically a guy haunted by his past, like, affiliation with, like, this rebellious group. And they were defeated. It's kind of like if he fought for the South in the Civil War, but they weren't terrible people, you know what I mean? Like, that's who Malcolm Reynolds would be. All right. That makes him sound so much worse now that I say that. But I really love that character. I think he's amazing. Naturally, there are others that I love. Like, I would say Rundle Housecode from Log Horizon, which is like that lithograph poster right there. Rundle Housecode, easily one of my favorite characters. But yeah, Malcolm Reynolds has to be up there. Very cool. And Chris Chase also writes in and says, what game or games gave you the best sense of progression? My example, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Your character starts out as a little shit, and no matter how good you are at the game, and he puts in capital, he still holds you back in some ways, but as you progress, you can actually feel him getting better at the skill. When I initially read this, because Chase was like, I sent you another one, so I was like, okay. I initially read this, and it just kind of sounds like Chase is trying to, like, convince himself that he's not bad at this video game, that it's Henry. He's like, Henry's the piece of shit here.
If only he was better.
No, but I mean, I totally get where he comes from, because, like, Kingdom Come Deliverance very much does that, where it's like, even if you're good at that game, Henry still fucking sucks. So it doesn't matter if you are the fucking king of Kingdom Come Deliverance, you fucking eat shit in the beginning, because Henry can't do squat. He's a little bitch boy. So, Big Josh Boy, do you have any, like, similar experiences, and what game do you think has the best sense of progression?
Yeah. So to be honest, I didn't even see this question. I didn't know we were going to talk about this. So this is a first thing that comes to mind. And no surprise, I'm sure people are probably like, Josh, please stop talking about this. But Binding of Isaac, baby! Best progression. Are you fucking kidding me? Look, the reason why I talk about Binding of Isaac so much is because of that feeling that you get when you go from being so damn weak, where you're just like, I am just awful, and you're just trying to just avoid everything. And then at the end of the game, if you're doing it right, you are just this monster powerhouse that just annihilates anything. It's very much the same feel, but it is one that I think has some of the best progression from that feeling that he's talking about, Chase is talking about, of like becoming so much stronger and so much of a difference. And you can tell when you're at that end state of the game where you're like, I'm just, things are dropping. Like, I'm killing shit. From a narrative perspective, I don't really know. I don't have anything off the top of my head that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty hard question to answer, admittedly. Like, trying to think about it, while, like, thinking about all the games I play, I'm like, they don't actually have that great of progression. Like, you kind of just are, like, thrown into the fray and expected to understand things. They don't really piecemeal things to you, or they're a little bit too hand-holdy for like, my taste. Of course, there are the games that I really, really love, like something like a Dark Souls game, where they constantly it's very hard, but they actually drip feed you a lot. So, like, early monsters only have like 1 or 2 attack patterns, but as you get into later levels, they actually start like really swiping you. So if you make a single mistake, you can get taken down. So I would say, like, I think Ashen has a really, really great progression system, where early in the game, most of the characters or most of the enemies you fight are actually humans, and they are very, like, they're relatively slow to get you, like, into the game, but as you move on, your reflexes tighten and you get kind of into the rhythm of the game and you get to like start moving, it's kind of like bobbing and weaving. Yeah. Like that's typically how Souls-like games, their progression works. But I would say like Ashen, I really just adore in general. So Ashen is definitely up there for progression systems for me. Narrative, on the other hand, is, it's a little bit different. Yeah. Where it's just like a way to progress the narrative. It's kind of all just done the same. It's just like you just fucking do one quest after another and it slowly pushes things forward. Yeah. It's not interesting, I guess. It's kind of weird when you think about video games in an abstract sense, how few of them actually try to break the mold and do something else. But then everyone else is just like, don't reinvent the wheel, just make something great within the current concept of video games. But then there are those that like do break the mold and force you to play as the villain halfway through the game and you're just like, what? No, I don't like that. Not a fan.
Gotta keep it spicy, you know?
Yeah, there are a few people who shake it up. Speaking of shaking things up, Philip Renshaw, Wombat Emperor of Australia, writes in and says, Gaming has had plenty of trends over the years: military shooters, crafting, shitty games that include card-based mechanics.
Oh, I wonder who that...
actually see that he wrote that.
I wonder who that's directed towards.
Of all of the gaming trends, there have been, what has been the most baffling to you, Big Josh Boy?
Clicker games. Clicker games.
Are you talking about clicker games like My Name is Mayo clicker game, or are you talking about like an adventure game?
No, like the ones where you're literally like, I'm gonna keep clicking and I get I think there was like one called Cookie Clicker, and it was like, I keep clicking and I get cookies, and it's like, okay, now you've built enough cookies to get something that automates that for you, and you're like, cool, but I could also keep clicking, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Why am I? This is crazy. Why would anyone sign up for this? And they're like, I like it. I get the most cookies, and I'm like, what are you doing? That, and I think just a lot of mobile games in general, like the loot box fiasco of just like everything having these and people going nuts around them. I was always like, I don't know. I'm too frugal of a person to ever get suckered into a lot of these things that have gotten a lot of people to spend money. And I'm like, I always look at it and I'm like, why? Why would you spend this much money? And like, I get it. People are at different parts of their life, or they just might be mentally in a different place, or that's just what makes them happy, I guess. But like for me, I look at it and I'm like, this is a big old waste.
Yeah,
to each their own.
Mean, there's so many trends in video games that like once you realize them, they're really uncomfortable. Like butt shots, you're just like, I mean, I'm here for it, but also, why would you choose that camera angle?
Yeah.
Like, it's
what was the game I was playing
so
recently
weird.
That had, oh, fuck. I can't remember, but there was something I was playing recently where it was like, it was egregious. Like, I was just like, oh, we're just going to look at this person's ass, and that's basically it. Okay.
Yeah, there's like fucking Mass Effect or like Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, where you just look at that one girl's ass for like a solid 5 minutes.
You're just like, all right.
She just...
We live here now.
Literally like her butt.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'm sorry. Like, I actually wanted to experience this game, not just your butthole. Like, I don't understand. Yeah, the ass shots thing is so weird to me, where it's just like, you had to have known that this is going to be a problem eventually. Like, it's so uncomfortable. And like, I think it's odd that people are actually fighting against removing the asses from Mass Effect. It's like, what exactly did it bring to the table? You're having this serious conversation with Miranda, and it's just like, speak to her butt cheeks. I'm like, why?
I don't, yeah. I
like, it's cool. I'm a boy. Like, I'm a guy. I mean, I'm a sexually active young male, so I understand why it's interesting, but it's also like, why you gotta show me your butt cheeks all the time? Like, that's not the coolest thing about your character.
People find weird things to hang up on.
Yeah. That's, I mean, speaking to the fucking the like singing to the choir.
I know, that's true.
I find the weirdest hang-ups in fucking video games.
That's true.
I mean, outside of the butt things, trends in video games, I mean, right now the digital showcase trend is baffling. Stop doing it.
Yeah,
there's too many.
There's a lot. I do like the quote, honestly, outside of the butthole thing, though.
There's too many fucking, like, there's too many showcases that actually they're not even exciting anymore. I don't even know if like E3 comes back that I'll give a shit about it.
I'm so interested
because it'll just be
in
the
that.
same.
Yeah, I'm so interested since we're not at a point where E3 is obviously going to be digital and it is coming back, but like what does that look like, you know? Because is everyone still going to be just like, well, why though? Because we have all these digital conventions. We could just post up ourselves. Like, what does E3 offer now?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's almost like all of these like showcases, they want you to be excited for them. They're like, be excited. Resident Evil is having a showcase. And you're just like, okay, it must be something big. And then it's just bland shit. And you're just like, why did you want me to get excited?
Yeah.
You realize that's just setting yourself up for failure, right? Like, you wanted me to get excited to look at the collector's edition packages for Resident Evil? Like, I don't understand. Like, I shit on that on the Elder Talks Games episode where we talked about the Resident Evil, like, direct thing. I shit on that so hard. I was like, this is unnecessary. Yeah. It was like 40 minutes, and it had the weirdest cuts. Like, okay, if you're gonna have like a direct or whatever, don't do 65 different camera angles because there's no reason to do it. Also, another weird trend is that within these like stupid directs that don't need to exist, they do like, it'll be this shot and then it'll be a camera shot from like right here while they're facing this way. And they're just like, they switch back from it like 5 seconds later and you're just like, that was unnecessary.
I mean, well, that's but that's like a lot of video editing technique for interviews, and like a lot of times people just use those because it's attention grabbing, but two,
it is interesting sometimes, but other times it's like in this specific instance when it was happening, they would literally pop over for like 2 seconds. They'd be saying just the same shit. It's probably pop over for 2 seconds.
And honestly, it's probably a cut grab because the person took a horrible take, and so they were splicing audio together with something so it didn't cut through. Like, it's just basic video editing techniques that they probably were like, fuck, this looks dumb, but like otherwise we're gonna have them like clipped in the same shot, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, it's just the things you would associate that with, where you're like, yeah, it's like something they do in like interviews and like documentaries. They do different camera angles because it is attention grabbing and it is actually kind of interesting. Yeah. But, and it can like really drive a point home seeing them from, like seeing somebody from a different angle. You'd be surprised how often that actually like kind of evokes an emotional response from just seeing them straight on. But there are other times where it's just like, when this is a direct and it's literally the idea of these is getting directly into the information instead of all of this filler. Yeah. And then they do that, you're just like, you just found another way to make this excessively like soaked with filler, and it's really annoying. Like, I don't understand why you did that. So
tough times.
Just a bunch of my dumbass nitpicks. There you go. There you go.
I get you.
I don't understand. Like, I want to know if Phil has a problem with like military shooters, crafting games, or like card-based mechanics.
Well, we already know he has a thing with card-based mechanics that he's clearly against.
I think most of the people in our community are actually just like, they're closeted like card game lovers. Like Josh, like last week was talking about how he was afraid that talking about Neurodeck was like, oh no, they're gonna hate that I talk about card games. I'm just like, bro,
I'm not afraid. I'm just like, if our audience wants to hear a certain, it's the idea of me being like, do I want to cater to the developers and be like, I want to talk about these games so that, you know, we could talk about different games? Or do I want to be like, well, our audience seems to all fucking hate when I talk about card games. So why am I doing it?
I don't think any of them actually hate it. I just don't think they like card games.
I don't like card games either. It's fine.
Sure you don't, big boy. Just keep telling yourself that. So the last questions coming in from Philip Renshaw are, do you fear or look forward to what questions your listeners are going to ask weekly? Do you fear or look forward?
I love this question. I'd say I'm pretty impartial. I don't fear or like, you know, look forward to it. I think it's just a part. Well, no, that's not true. I do look forward to them, but not in the same like, God, I can't wait to see what they cook up this time. But I love this part of it because it's a good way to interact with people. And it's interesting to see the questions that some people have, because when I think about this, like you know, the active quest, they don't do it as much, but like they used to all the time. Is like a lot of them, and Chris still does it, but like a lot of them would ask questions like constantly to us. And I always felt bad because I never reciprocated that, just because I'm like, I feel like I'm creative in certain regards, but like not with that. Like when people are like, ask us a question, and I'm like, do you,
what's your favorite color?
Do you like blue? Like fucking who cares, right? And like I feel like I have nothing to add to that, so I just don't do it. But I love hearing these because it's always so interesting to see like the things that people are just like, oh, you know, what is fucking plus ultra? That's a weird one. But like the you know, what's your favorite fictional character, or you know, the gaming trends one. Like that's a cool thing to ask because it's a good like talking point. But like, I don't know, I wouldn't say that it's one of those things where I'm like, God, I can't wait to answer some listener questions. Like I can't wait. But you know, it's always fun to interact with them. As far as do I fear them, I only fear them when we have Jenny on.
Oh, dude, yeah. I only fear them when we have guests, just in general. I get so afraid that somebody's going to get uncomfortable. Yeah. It's just like, that's why every time we do it, I preface like the episodes with basically telling people, I'm like, you don't actually have to answer them, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, they get weird, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
I mean, we have a specific audience. We need a specific type of guest. Like...
I personally, I feel pretty much the same way. I look forward to it pretty much every week just because I don't know, I'm a fucking narcissist and I like to talk about myself in a sense, but like also I enjoy the fact that people actually give a shit who we are as people and they want to know more about us. Yeah, it's really interesting. I love the fact that like people write in, they have this discussion with us. It's awesome. I love the fact that one of the people in our Discord apparently had a dream with us their dream.
That was so funny.
We were going on an indie pod road trip, and I was like, that's cool.
I can't wait, dude. When we're able to not, when COVID is gone and you're able to kiss me on the mouth like you always say, oh man, you listeners should really watch this video feed. Anyway, when we're able to do that, we got to have a special where we're gonna have to travel to certain places. Obviously, we're in different locations, but the drive from whatever convention we're going to, gotta have an indie pod road trip. It's gonna be a short road trip, but it's the closest we can do.
I mean, yeah, it might be. I think it's amazing. I love that people actually give a shit. Me coming from like several years of making content on the internet that nobody actually gave a shit about to actually having something where somebody cares is really just blows us away. That's why the Patreon consistently blows us away, where we're like, we thought we'd get like, I don't know, my mom like fucking giving me $1 on Patreon or something because she thought it was interesting. But the fact that anybody actually gives a shit.
His mom hates him because she's not doing that.
Out my mom doesn't give a fuck. And lastly, Phil also asks, underwear, optional, extra, or essential need? Yeah, this is something that Josh and I were like, what do you mean optional, extra?
What does essential need mean? Like, I don't know what this question is trying to get at. Do I wear underwear? Yes, if that's what you're asking.
I guess like I now the way that I read it, the way that it's phrased is like optional extra, meaning like it's like an extra piece of clothing that you could put on, or essential like need. It's basically just the classification of it. So maybe. Essential would be like I need to wear it versus optional is like it's an extra piece of clothing that I could put on one way or the other.
I mean, I don't need to wear anything if you think about it. Like I don't need to.
I don't know, dude. I'm a never nude.
I work
like,
from
I don't
home.
fuck with it.
I live at home. I mean, that's a dumb sentence.
You're like, as far as you know, I'm not wearing underwear right now.
I've never worn underwear. It's actually a tradition. Indie pod, the underpants come off.
Yeah, you got to let it breathe down there.
It's true.
It just gets too spicy on this podcast. It's
hot and steamy. All these hot takes. I can't be keeping them down here in the steamer.
Yeah, you're gonna get swamp nuts that way. You don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
I honestly I actually wish that I could not wear underwear. I'm gonna be honest. Like I've always thought that was like an interesting thing that people did.
I can't do it unless I have like pajamas on or something like that. Like I don't
I could never do it. I don't like that much freedom. I don't wear boxers because I don't like my shit going around. Like, it makes me uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like, I like the idea of my balls being imprisoned in a fabric, in a fabric penitentiary. Like, I'm a big fan of it. I might be scared of being, like, locked up everywhere else, but, like, the underneath, like, I would wear a chastity belt if I could, But, I mean, it's got to spread the love, you know what I mean, bitch ass boy? But that is the end of this episode. Thanks, everyone, so much for listening. If you would like to chat with us outside the show, you could do so in a bunch of different ways. Of course, you can follow us at IndiePod over on Twitter. Make sure to do so for the notifications of what we looked at on God Bless the Crowd, the question tweets, random indie game news, notifications of our developer interviews, and so much more. Were you going to say something?
I was going to say something. By the way, we mentioned that we would read the reviews if people actually gave us, the iTunes thing. Now, we got a review, but unfortunately it was just the 5 stars, which is very great. I'm glad we got 5 stars, but there was no comment, so we can't read it. So come on, people, give us some reviews so we could read, because I want to see what there's a podcast I listen to all the time called Everything to Guppy, which is a podcast about Binding of Isaac. But they actually like never talk about Binding of Isaac. They've literally done it so long that they even go into like rants about how they're like, oh, I'm so sick of this game, and it's just like them just basically vamping for 15-minute episodes of them just doing weird just stories or characters. So good, but they always end it with reading them, the reviews that come in, and they are always so ridiculous. I love it. I want that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess our listener questions kind of like
I know, yeah,
that,
for
but
sure.
Still,
but
yeah,
I want
written reviews like would be really amazing over on iTunes, and once again, we will read them. So please leave us those. If you would like to follow me on Twitter at HydeLegion, HYDELEGION, for all of my shit outside of IndiePod, like Go Beyond, at Go Beyond Pod. My streams that I do on Saturdays and Sundays, which is twitch.tv/HydeLegion, same as my, Twitter. And you can follow the Big Josh Boy at the underscore...
Rewind that back.
The underscore George90 and twitch.tv/the underscore George. Anything else that you would like to shout out before we hop off here, Big Josh Boy?
Nah, that's it. We're just doing our thing. Keep it locked to IndiePod.
Okay. All right. And lastly, naturally, got to do the housekeeping again. Check out the Sander Ambrose developer interview going live on Wednesday. I'm so sorry that I do that all the time, by the way. It's terrible of me to do. But that goes live on Wednesday, one day after for patrons, 2 days before for plebes. So please check that out. Sizable is their game. Check those out, and check out all the awesome developer interviews we put out every week. Last week was Headworms. It seemed really interesting, so please do so. Check out the IndiePod store. Currently, we've got pretty cheap t-shirts and stickers, and soon to be other stuff. Next month, we will get enough of our Patreon money so where we can commission some new stuff, so it's going to be really cool, and at least I hope it is. And check out the IndiePod YouTube channel where you can watch these episodes on video, which apparently Josh would like you to do.
I would.
I mean, I'd like you to do it as well because they're pretty good. Please leave us reviews on any sort of platform in which you can, specifically iTunes, and written reviews would be amazing. 5 stars is also fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And speaking of thank yous, thank you so much to all of our Patreon or patrons in general, but specifically, gotta thank the $3 tier and higher, of course. We'll see Mixamentosis, aka Mix, Zach Durham, Chase Hopkins, Philip Renshaw, the Wombat Emperor of Australia, Chris Penwell, who's always drinking tea, dude. I wonder if he regrets that he wrote in and said that I could say that after his name.
He's like, I don't drink that much tea.
Josh Nichols, aka Active Josh from That Their Active Quest. Please make sure to check it out. And lastly, Sam Fillion from Canada. Thank you all so much for being patrons. You're all so amazing. Anybody listening to this, you're amazing. If you're checking out indie games, you're amazing. Everybody's amazing. That is it for this episode. Thanks everyone so much for listening, and we will talk to you all next week.
I like that little roll.
I just felt like I had to do something because like last week, it like took you a second to wave, and I just realized that I was like